Sometimes you just have to make a lot of mistakes. You have to do the trial and error. To a certain extent, it's unavoidable. And that's just part of the journey of being an entrepreneur, just being lost, being confused. But you keep going forward, and eventually you find that clarity through motion, not through sitting around trying to imagine, playing in imagination land, playing in reality.
Just for people who don't know you, can you just introduce yourself? How has it been for the last period?
Yeah, so I don't know how far back to go, but let's say my training is in physics. So I did my undergrad in physics, I got a master's degree, and then I got a PhD kind of by accident. I wasn't planning on getting a PhD. The plan was to get a master's degree, but then when I was doing that, I discovered this thing called research, which I had
hmm
very little understanding of. And I feel like most people don't really have an understanding of research. They probably imagine some like scientists in white lab coats or something like that. And even though I
hmm
did own a lab coat, most of the time I was just on my computer writing code or something like that. That's when I got into like machine learning, data science, these buzzwords. I guess data science is falling out of fashion and now AI is on the rise.
Yes.
But that's when I first got into it. It was about 5 years ago. And at that time, I was also starting to make content. So I was making YouTube videos, writing blog posts. And
hmm
surprisingly, like people were watching the videos and reading the blogs. And it's funny, I posted about this on LinkedIn. Like in elementary school, I had failed a standard writing exam when I was in fourth grade or something like that.
uh-huh.
And I've always been good at like math and science. I've never been good at writing, public speaking. All this stuff was my biggest weakness, which is part of the reason why I started making content to improve that skill set. And it's slowly working. Through this conversation. You'll probably realize like, wow, this guy really is a physicist. Yeah. So I graduated. I went to work at Toyota as a data scientist. That was a big decision for me, actually, because I had two options in front of me. So I had my physics PhD and I had this experience with data science, which is a pretty high leverage skill set. And I'd been freelancing on the side, mainly through Upwork. And I
hmm
had this offer from a freelance client that was basically, hey, we'll pay you like, it was like $90 an hour and
hmm
we want you as much as we can get you. So up to like 40 hours a week. And then I had this offer from Toyota, which in a lot of ways was like my dream job because it was in the automotive industry and I had experience in that industry because my dad, owns a car dealership and I grew up just always helping him around like with his business and I actually had worked there after finishing my undergrad.
hmm
So, and it was a data science role. So I was like, oh, this is like perfect for me. Like I understand this industry and it's something I like. And I never worked corporate before because I'd always just been small business or, at school. So I went and worked at Toyota and that was an amazing experience. But after 1 year, I realized like, corporate's not really for me. I've
I
always
get
had
you.
that entrepreneurial itch. My whole family, everyone has businesses. So
uh-huh.
I think it was destined to come to an end at some point. And for me, like ChatGPT had come out like 6 months before AI was on this rise, and I felt like I was kind of missing out. Like this is prime time. This is time to go in on this. And that sentiment was actually echoed a couple months later when I was interviewing some data scientists on Upwork. So I did this thing where I paid data scientists on Upwork to talk to me so I could learn from them. And this one guy, he had made like over $1 million on Upwork and he had startups and he was just like, this guy was a legit, like the unicorn data scientist that
Wow.
understands data engineering, data science, ML engineering, how to ship products. Like he
Nice.
knew, he knew it all. He had like 20 years experience. And he was telling me like right now is not time to be on the sidelines. And I was like, okay, so I made the right decision because this was after I had left my job. So I left my job like 15 months ago and
hmm
just have been trying to survive and trying to figure out how to make something work. So explore a lot of things. So definitely been doing the content. I tried freelance a bit because that's, what I'm comfortable with,
hmm
but I don't really enjoy doing that because it felt like another version of working at Toyota. It's like, instead of a manager, you have a client and then it's the
Yes.
same routine of, okay, they want you to do this project and you have to show up to these weekly meetings and present and then go, back and make changes and so what I guess ultimately was like bothering me is I had this high leverage skill set, like these highly valuable skills. Like coding, machine learning, like all the other things you learn to become a data scientist. But I was using it to solve other people's problems, which meant that in order to extract value and or in order to generate value with my skills, like I needed someone else involved. I needed someone else's permission to get paid. But like it was really bugging me that I wasn't able to just use that skill set to solve my own problems and generate value for myself. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's just like I guess like 8, 9 months ago, I decided to like stop doing like project based work as a consultant or a freelancer and started like focusing on just making money other ways. So I first tried just going all in on YouTube because that seemed to be working, and
Yeah.
it did not work. Even though I like doubled my YouTube videos, like I wasn't doubling all the metrics that matter. Like the ad revenue stayed basically the same. The number of views I was getting per video
Mm-hmm.
kind of stayed the same. My subs started to go down. So I was like, okay, this is not working. So I
Mm-hmm.
pivoted again. I was like, okay, let me just try to find an offer. Let me like try to find something that I can sell that is not just my time, but is something more kind of prepackaged. And so that's
Mm-hmm.
when I settled on like doing some kind of educational offer, some kind of educational product. And
Okay.
the what sparked that was this company had reached out to me to do a private workshop for them. They were doing this yearly retreat and they wanted me to come teach them about AI.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, okay, well, I this is something I can do. So I did it. It was fun. And I decided like this is something I can do for other people. And so that was one idea and it didn't really work out. So that was kind of like it could have worked, but I feel like the amount of sales that I would have to do in order to make that work, it just wasn't clicking. I feel like there were easier offers out there. So I kind of pivoted away from that and I explored like 3 or 4 different versions of like basically doing educational stuff with AI. And then I finally, oh, go ahead, sir.
Sorry to stop you. Why did you think it was a hard sell? It seems to be now, if I'm looking from like an objective perspective, it seems that people really need it. But again, I haven't tried to sell these stuff by myself.
So I think part of the challenge, if you're a content creator and you're trying to pair that with some kind of offer, like a product or a service,
Mm-hmm.
the central challenge is aligning your audience that you're making content for and the product that you're selling.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah, yeah.
essentially that there was some overlap because the people who are going to buy like B2B private workshops, they're, senior leaders in companies, corporations, and like pretty big
Mm-hmm.
companies. And they're probably not watching YouTube, so
Yeah.
they probably don't know who I am. And so, of course, like I could, build a landing page and, have like lead magnets and have like free PDF downloads, like, the 10 things you need to know about AI, like the 10 things senior directors need to know about AI, like basically making content targeted toward that audience. It was, I was already doing so much effort. Like I was already doing so much work with my YouTube channel and my blog. And that stuff would basically not get fully utilized. I would have to make a whole nother type of content to attract this particular audience. So I
Mm-hmm.
definitely could have done it, but it's not the most time efficient thing to do
Right.
and the most time
Yeah.
efficient approach. The
Mm-hmm.
most time efficient thing is basically make a product for people who would watch my YouTube videos,
Right.
because I don't have to do any additional effort. And most
Yeah.
people who see my videos, they're kind of like already sold on me. Like
Yeah.
they're like, okay, this guy knows what he's talking about. I learned something from this video. And
Mm-hmm.
so they trust me. And that's been the story of when I was doing consulting, everyone, 80% of my leads came from YouTube. And these were like, I was kind of surprised. Like a lot of CEOs, VPs, and also like founders, people working as management consultants, like people that I wouldn't expect be into like pretty technical AI content were watching these
Mm-hmm.
videos and booking calls with me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so eventually, like this is the messy part about entrepreneurship that you usually
Yes.
don't
Yes.
hear
Yes.
about. But I tried like 5 or 6 different educational offers, and then a few weeks ago, I decided to do kind of the current offer, which I call the AI Builders Boot Camp, which is like 6 weeks, 6 lectures, and it's a $500 price point. and
Mm-hmm.
doing it on Maven. And so that, for whatever reason, kind of popped off.
Mm-hmm.
And people really liked that offer. And
Mm-hmm.
everything else was, because I tried like a one-off lecture for like $20. I tried like a 2-day workshop with 4 sessions for like $200. I tried like a
Mm-hmm.
6-week thing where it's like a small cohort, and I help you hands-on build your custom project for like $2,000. So like all different variations and form factors for this basically AI education. And it was like doing it on Maven that finally worked out. And in hindsight, it's kind of obvious because that's what everyone else is doing, and they are doing well. Like Santiago, he's not doing it on Maven, but he has ML.school, and I had actually taken his course. And even though I had, 5 years experience in machine learning, I sometimes you just have to make a lot of mistakes. You have to do the trial and error. To a certain extent, it's unavoidable. And that's just part of the journey of being an entrepreneur, just being lost, being confused. But you keep going forward, and eventually you find that clarity through motion, not through sitting around trying to imagine, you know, playing in imagination land, playing in
Mm-hmm.
reality.
Yeah, I couldn't relate more. And the problem is when you're in the zone, you think like, oh my God, like surely other people got it figured out, right? Like when you're so confused at the moment, you don't know what's the next step. You don't know, like, okay, you tried this and this and this, and maybe this doesn't work, this doesn't work. You always feel like it's a lonely sport because all of a
Yeah.
sudden you're by yourself. It's not like if you're in a company, you're like you belong to a company, you can ask your teammates, everybody kind of have the same struggles. But when you're by yourself, it becomes really difficult. How did you manage to finance yourself throughout all these experiences? Were you using your savings? I mean, that must have been also a little bit like challenging and scary as well.
Yeah, I didn't anticipate how much of an emotional toll that would take.
You didn't? Oh my God. I can imagine it now. I'm freaking out.
Yeah. But okay, so before I left, I had savings.
Yeah.
Actually, I just posted a video today, and you can see my savings over time just go down. It's gonna hit zero this quarter,
Hmm.
actually, but I think the boot camp saved me. People are
That's
like at
congratulations.
the last minute. But yeah, I've been living off savings. It's not that I haven't made any money. So I calculated in the first year I had made $25,000 total,
Hmm.
which you know is not nearly how much I made as a data scientist, but it's not nothing. You know what I mean? Like there are
Yeah.
people who they work full time and they make $25,000 a year. So I think that was enough of a signal for me to keep going.
Yeah.
But primarily just living off savings for the past 15 months. And now, with the boot camp, it have found some light. It's like have found a viable way to pay the bills.
Hmm.
And also, I'm doing this thing this quarter where I'm gonna ship a product every month until something works. Kind of the indie
Nice.
hacker route. I don't know if you
Yeah.
keep up with any of the indie hackers on Twitter, because as much as I love like education and giving talks and teaching, like that's why I made my YouTube channel in the first place.
Hmm.
It's hard for me to just do that. I can see myself doing the boot camp like a few times a year, but really I need to have like a main focus. Like I need to be reaching. I can't just
Yeah.
be like comfortable with, oh, I learned this stuff and now I get to teach it to people. Like I always have
Hmm.
to be growing and going to that next level. And
Hmm.
product development is for me right now, that's the next level of just
Yeah.
learning all the different aspects, because it's not just about coding. It's
No.
about coming up with ideas, validating them,
Yes.
selling them, and then, cybersecurity,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
customer support. There's a lot to it, and I haven't even scratched the surface. So I just shipped my first one this month, or actually a couple days ago.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. It was very exciting. I learned a whole lot. It makes me like really excited for the future of just entrepreneurship in this space. For like people like me that come from like a data science machine learning background, you're super comfortable with, working with data, like transforming data, processing data and analyzing it, training models.
Hmm.
But doing that is very different from building a website or building an app.
Definitely.
It's a
Yeah.
completely different skill set. But now I feel like it's so accessible to pick up those skills very quickly. So I built the initial prototype for this product in just 4 days. And
Wow.
I think there were two big unlocks for that. One is this Python library called Fast HTML,
Hmm.
put out by Jeremy Howard, who super prominent figure in the ML space, kind of one of the, early people talking about the fine tuning paradigm that made ChatGPT work so well.
Mm-hmm.
And Fast HTML, I feel like the game changer is now people who are super comfortable with Python, like most data scientists, don't have to learn HTML, CSS, JavaScript to build a web
Mm-hmm.
app. So that was the
Mm-hmm.
first unlock. And then the second unlock is just Cursor, ChatGPT, like whatever your favorite coding assistant, because
Yeah,
now I designed the website in Canva, took a screenshot, dropped it into Cursor, and asked it to start writing the fast HTML code for me. And I mean, it's obviously it's not perfect, but it's a lot easier to start from that code than to start from scratch because you
definitely.
can you have the bare bones, you have the framework, and you start editing the code, and you just have it side by side, and you fix it until it works. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think those two unlocks is what allowed me to build the prototype in 4 days. And if this was last year, it probably would have taken me weeks, like maybe a
Yeah.
month to just do a prototype, you know?
No, definitely, definitely. That's what I keep telling the people now. Like, it's the best time to be a creator of anything because
Hmm.
this is now what became super cheap. Like
Yeah.
information code, it became cheap.
Hmm.
But what's the expensive is still the execution and the ideas. Like, if you
Right.
have a good idea, you want to just put it out in the world,
Hmm.
you can now do it really super quick, super cheap, super easy, and also
Yeah.
like you can hire people. So it's not only that you need to do it yourself. I mean, it's good that you're doing it yourself. And
Yeah.
funny enough, I feel like most data scientists nowadays are also pivoting into like product. Like I
Yeah.
also now started doing MLOps, security, just because like you need it. Like there's no data
Right.
science and machine learning without the security aspect. And yeah, that's really what's the product is about.
So the product it's called Y to B. I even bought the domain Y, and it's the number two. So Y number two B.io. I paid
Okay.
$70 for that. I could have gone for a cheaper one, but for whatever reason, that was the first name that came to mind. So I just wanted to execute on that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it converts YouTube videos into blog posts.
Nice.
The my whole approach, and I actually made a video talking about like this whole experience, but like my approach to like doing this idea was just solving my own problems. And this was
Mm-hmm.
something that I was lucky to ask Stephen Wolfram advice on entrepreneurship. And the reason Wolfram is inspiring is because he's a prominent physicist who successfully made the transition to entrepreneurship. And he's still like, he built products and he's doing like pretty, hardcore research in computation and physics and all the other stuff that he's working on. His advice was like, the products that I build are things that I want to see. That's like things that I want to use. So like my
Mm-hmm.
interpretation of that is, solve your own problems. Because if you're your own customer, like you don't have to talk to anyone to validate an idea. If it
Mm-hmm.
solves your own pain point, like that's validation right there. And if it provides value to you, it probably provides value to at least one other person. So there was that. And I'd also seen a job post on Upwork that was like, we have this podcast, this technical, like machine learning podcast, and we want to turn it into a blog post. And I was thinking about that. I was like, oh, yeah, I could do it. Because this was when I was getting desperate. This was before the AI Builders Bootcamp was making any money. I was like, okay, I'm going to run out of money pretty soon. So I
Mm-hmm.
was on Upwork looking for ways to generate some cash flow. So I was like, oh, I can do that. And I was like, wait, I can like probably build an app to do that. And that would
Mm-hmm.
make like help me do it a lot faster. Then I was like, oh, wait, I have a ton of podcasts on the Data Entrepreneurs YouTube channel that I want to turn into blog posts. So I was like, I think that was what really sold me. I was like, okay, this is enough validation for me to just execute on this.
Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah, so I implemented it in a few days, just the basic prototype. And then I used it to write one article. And typically, it takes me about like 6 hours to write an article, like starting from zero. But this article took me 1 hour. So it was like a 5, 6x time savings because it took care of that initial draft. Because it was a 1 hour long podcast. Like if I had to watch that thing, even on 2x, like that's 30 minutes right there. And then
Definitely.
for me to like structure the blog and organize my thoughts and
Mm-hmm.
then write a first draft, it would probably take me at least an hour. So that was done in like 5 minutes
Yeah.
because I just put in the link and yeah, good.
No, definitely. There's definitely so much opportunity in that space. Like I now pay for the Riverside Premium just because of their
Yep.
really impressive AI. You can summarize. I mean, I'm also like a machine learning, so I try to do it myself with
Yeah.
like open source solution,
Hmm.
which was possible. It was just still a lot of manual work. So,
Yeah.
and it took like maybe an hour. I didn't have
Mhm.
GPU, so it took like an hour. And with their solution, they kind of summarize the whole thing, give you the key points,
Yep.
and they also give you like the timestamps. So
Mhm.
everything about content generation nowadays, I feel like it's a great opportunity to do anything in that area, because
Yeah.
it's generally like make it so much faster to publish and do so many different things. I actually now also just hired the guy today, so he can help me with the content, help me with the publishing. So any AI solution that maybe helps automate this kind of stuff, I feel like it's going to bring a lot of values to maybe a small number of people who are creators who are struggling with this kind of stuff.
Yeah, for sure. And I feel like, just real quick, like I feel like that's
Yeah,
the opportunity for people like you. Like you have the machine learning background and now you're getting into podcasting and content creation. There are so many podcasters out there. So if you find something like a little tool or a little process that helps you become more efficient, it's probably going to help other people be more efficient too. So that's an opportunity for a product that you could develop.
definitely. Like right now, actually, what I need somebody who creates like thumbnails for YouTube, for
Yeah.
example.
That was actually one of the ideas I was going to build, but I
Yeah,
went with this other one because I thought it would be faster. But
definitely.
sorry.
I mean, yeah. So no worries. So I now automated most of the stuff. Like the moment you publish this episode on Spotify for podcasters, it gets published in many different areas. But
Nice.
still, integration with YouTube is still not there, because
Yeah.
I mean, if you're using RSS feed, you can import the episode, but they only import the audio to YouTube. So there's no way to just transport. Although this is video platform on Spotify, there's no way to publish it automatically to YouTube. I have to
Oh, I
download
see. Yeah.
the file, which is massive, and then
Mhm.
add the thumbnail, which is custom, which is still like a little bit inefficient. I mean, it might be really quick, but it's built annoying. And
Mhm.
I just wanted to like automatize this whole thing. And then the post is basically written. If I want to share like on LinkedIn, like, hey, I posted a
Nice.
new episode. It's there, but it's still not there. And I've been experimenting with, for example, Medium, which the moment I publish a new episode, not Medium, sorry, it's make.com or
Okay.
Zapier, for example, these automation tools.
Yeah.
The moment I publish something on Spotify, there's a pipeline that get triggered, and then it will take the summary and then maybe summarize it more using ChatGPT, and then I have the final post for LinkedIn that
Nice.
automatically posted on my LinkedIn post. I tried to do such a thing, and then I did an error, and all of a sudden I get so many messages. It was like, dude, what is happening with your with your feed? Because I forgot that I activated the whole pipeline by mistake, and then it started like publishing stuff on my LinkedIn, like it sounded gibberish or something. I don't know. It
Oh,
was like
really?
crazy.
Just ChatGPT went mad and started
It,
writing things.
not even. It was like pure HTML code.
Oh, okay.
Like there was an error with the conversion. I see like when it goes smoothly, it's super useful, and it
Yeah.
saved me so much time. Maybe other areas, where do you see nowadays the most opportunities, or what have I mean, you've been speaking to a lot of consultants as well. I saw you did like
Yeah.
this consultancy panel. What did they say? What products are actually working out there in industry? What are people paying for?
Okay, so I'll start by talking about like people who are trying to develop products, like data
Yeah.
scientists and ML people trying to develop products. I think the best approach is starting like outward of what are people using, what can I improve upon kind of thing. I would just start with yourself, like internally, like what projects could I do that would make my life easier? Because I feel like I don't know, I guess I'm gonna just repeat myself, but being your own customer, I feel like is such a powerful hack for developing a good product because it's so hard to get into someone's head, to do customer interviews and understand what people are thinking. If you can just like shortcut that where you can basically have a conversation with yourself is like 100 times faster than having a conversation with someone else. And
Hmm.
even from that perspective, it just allows you to move faster. And when you're at the beginning and you don't know anything, you want to move as fast as possible just so you can learn. Like you just have to make those mistakes and iterate quickly so you can develop the skill set. And your first like 5 to 10 products are going to fail, but eventually you're going to learn enough that you know what it takes to build a successful product. Talking with the AI consultants, I don't know if there's any like singular trend where like, oh, everyone's using this tool or that tool. And a lot of the consultants I talk to, they're like boutique shops. It's like one person or it's a team of 10 people or something like that. So these are pretty small businesses. And at that scale, it's very dependent on the founder's background and experience or what industry they've just happened to find themselves in, you know? But I will say like one pattern that seems to be like everyone says they've done at least one project in there is private equity. And so know people that are like they have clients that work in that space or they build products for people in that space. So that seems to be a very popular one right now. And then as far as tools, it just depends on the shop because some people they'll build everything custom. Other people, they'll just be on a specific platform. Like we do all the Azure stuff. So we'll help you with GitHub Copilot or, we'll help you set up your data pipeline or they'll be doing GCP, building like data pipelines and setting up databases and things like that. But I will say, like, for people who are trying to get into consulting and freelance, the people I've found be most successful and make the most money are data engineers because
Yeah.
that is like the most fundamental thing to any business and that
Yes.
provides real
Yes.
value.
Hmm.
So I feel like if if you want to kind of reduce your headache, go into data engineering, like if you
Yeah.
can, and then do like analytics on top of that because that's been around for a long time and that's not
Hmm.
going anywhere. And
Yeah.
then any kind of AI or machine learning project has to build on top of that infrastructure. You know,
Hmm.
of course, you can like build these data pipelines ad hoc for specific projects, but that's pretty rare, I feel, for companies to actually invest big money in just building a single project. I think typically it's more common for companies to hire consultants to help them build like a data infrastructure from which they can do a ton of different projects or build a ton of different dashboards on top of.
No, definitely. I totally agree with you. And maybe a little background about what I'm trying to do in that space. I try to enter like Upwork. I try to reach out to clients to do data science work. And I'm not gonna lie, there was always this uncertainty whenever you get like a certain project description, because there's a little bit of uncertainty that maybe the data is not there or something that might go wrong. And I felt like my ability to deliver was not fully in within my control.
Right.
But if you pivot to something else, for example, now I get offers regarding infrastructure because now I'm doing machine learning engineering, I do security, and it's for AI companies, like companies who have data scientists and they maybe have them like in-house and they actually what they need is the infrastructure, whether it's data engineering and whether it's like actual like Terraform and like
Yep.
hardcore ML engineering. I see that this is now what is still very much needed, but
Right.
it's not the hype and everybody was looking, it's like, oh, let me try to add Gen AI, but then people forget that actually these are the stuff that's been making money for a long time, you know?
Right.
So that's what I'm trying now to pivot. I'm trying to find a team of DevOps because MLOps is basically a DevOps guy with some ML knowledge. And I would now trying to go more on the DevOps side because I see like on a day to day, you're just doing DevOps best practices. Like even if you don't know anything about machine learning,
Yep.
you'll still do a good job. But where I'm coming from, I did data science and I didn't do much on the cloud. And
Right.
sometimes I struggle, especially when it comes to security. So I'm really pleased you touched on that security part.
Yeah, I feel like that's a really good niche. I'm curious to hear how it goes for
Hmm.
you. I haven't so I knew one guy specializing in MLOps, Paul, man, I don't know how to pronounce his last name.
Oh yeah,
Paul
I know the guy.
Zerlai.
Yeah,
He's
yeah,
big on
yeah.
LinkedIn.
Yes,
He was doing MLOps, but now he's pivoted to content creation. I don't know,
yes.
maybe I don't know if he didn't like the MLOps or like doing it as a service or something else. Maybe
Probably same background as you. Probably I don't know. He realized. I'm not sure if he was doing freelancing. Was he
yeah,
doing?
he was freelancing and he has a software development background.
Uh huh.
So slightly different, but he always loved like the MLOps side of things.
Yes, yes, yes,
Um,
yes. Now, very, very smart guy. I follow his content. Maybe he'll be on my podcast one day. We'll see.
yeah, I can hook you guys up if you want. He's going to give a talk next month in the Data Entrepreneurs.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, definitely. Would love to. Talking about data entrepreneurs, what made you start this community?
There are many reasons.
Uh-huh.
So I think the first that comes to mind is what you kind of touched on, is when you go down this path of entrepreneurship, it can be very isolating at
Yes.
times,
Yeah.
and just me in my local area, there isn't anyone like that I know personally that is on a similar journey. Maybe some people are working in like data science or data analytics or just the data space, or they're entrepreneurs pursuing some kind of business, but no one does both. And then I was trying to find people online, like find mentors, like people I can learn from and connect with, and that wasn't working out either, because people who are entrepreneurs and doing stuff, they either one don't have time
Yes.
to talk to random strangers on the internet, or two, I don't even know how to find them. You
Yeah.
can't really type data entrepreneur into LinkedIn, or
Yes.
you couldn't like a couple of years ago when I
Hmm.
started. But now I feel like if you type in data entrepreneurs, the community would come up. So that's why I started the community, just because I couldn't find any other data entrepreneurs, or
Yeah.
people. I guess data entrepreneur is like a made up term. No one really uses it. But like basically people who are in the data and machine learning space, but are
Yes.
also pursuing entrepreneurial ventures. They want to start a
Hmm.
business, they want to be self-employed, whatever it might be.
Hmm.
So I started the community to try to attract those people, like bring them all together so I can learn from them and get mentorship, and we can all learn from each other. And, I'm really happy and excited to see that actually happening. So
Hmm.
one of the people who had reached out to me even before I started the Data Entrepreneurs, his name was Ben Feike, or his name is still Ben Feike, but he had reached out to me.
I was like, did you change his name? Okay.
His name's Ben. He reached out to me. He was like, I want to go down freelance. He had seen my content and all the stuff. And there was another person in the data entrepreneurs. So yeah, Ben connected me 2 years ago, and then later he connected with someone through the data entrepreneurs and has been getting mentorship from him. So it's just
Nice.
really cool to see those kinds of connections. Like
Yeah.
people kind of, they see the person was on a podcast, or they see the person gave a really nice talk, so they reach out to them
Hmm.
on LinkedIn and they have a conversation, and they
Yeah.
see that they have like mutual interests and there's some kind of alignment, and they just like it turns into a relationship, like a working relationship, or just like some kind of mentorship. So I really love seeing that, and that gets me excited. And then I was also going to say on mentorship, because it seemed like you were struggling when you laughed when I said it's hard to find mentors.
Yes. Yes.
One thing that actually worked really well for me was going on Upwork, finding like the top data scientists, people who had earned the most, and just booking time with them, because there's an
Hmm.
option that you can like book consultations directly. So you don't
Yeah.
even give people the option. You just like book time directly
That
on
is
the
so
calendar.
smart. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
I talked to like 15 different people, and that was one of the best like investments. Like even the content I made from those conversations have paid for, I think, like 2x the money I spent on the consultations. And then on top of that, a lot of those people have joined the data entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
They've been on podcasts, given talks, like they've been playing a role in the community, and like they've been sharing their knowledge with other people. And it's also good for them because they get more visibility, they get to put it on their portfolio. So it's just like really, like that was something that worked really well for me.
First of all, that's a genius cheat code for everybody who's listening. Like this is something that I'm also trying to do most of my time. It doesn't cost you much, but it builds this rapport. Like
Yeah.
somehow there's this art of reciprocity that, oh,
Yeah.
you paid for my product, I want to help you,
Yeah.
and then it becomes such a like a nice relationship. You build such a nice relationship with this person.
Yeah.
So I've been definitely trying to do that. It's definitely worth the investment.
Right.
And I think Chris Do, I don't know if you follow his content. He's like this branding genius on YouTube.
Okay.
I'm a big fan. And he actually said like
Oh yeah, yeah.
if you ever want to be nearby these kind of people, easiest way to do is just to book their services. I mean,
Yeah.
some of them, if you're trying, like, I don't know, they like very famous, they actually
Right.
charge you maybe 5 grand for 1 hour
Yeah.
consultation. But if you're a business and you want to like reach the next step, then this 5 grand is an investment. But
Yeah.
you only start thinking about this once you're at that level. And
Yeah.
I totally relate to what you just said. And I have another hack. Where are you based at the moment?
I'm in Dallas, Texas.
Dallas, Texas. Okay, I'm not sure if it's there, but I'm part of this community called Founders Running Club,
Okay.
and we have, funny enough, but I know you said that like CEOs, CTOs are super busy, but apparently they're not super busy to run, and that was like the trick. I found like 3 mentors in the space,
Nice.
and we've been like hanging out, having dinners,
Oh,
and
that's awesome.
ever since I joined that club, it was just like a massive resources into different people doing so many different things. And I now became like a chapter lead in that because I believe in the power of a community, and
Okay.
now we're helping the community grow. And I that's why, like, when I saw like the data entrepreneurs, I related to it so much because I saw the benefits of it, and
Yeah.
through that community, because now like I lead the runs, I see people also like building companies together and finding co-founders, and it's
That's
such a
awesome.
great area. And now, funny enough, from that community now came out another community called Sunday, what is it, Founders Anxiety Club,
Okay.
which were people who like almost reaching like a burnout. They want to just sit down and talk, and they,
Nice.
like we're reaching now winter, so it might be a little bit tougher to run,
Mhm.
but people still want other people to relate, because you can maybe talk to your partner, you can talk to your colleagues or whoever. Like, nobody's going to relate as much as person who's actually going through the same things as you.
Yeah, for sure.
So it definitely helps to build a community like that. What's your bigger like the vision for data entrepreneurs for the future? How do you want to
You know,
see this community expanding?
for the longest time, there was no vision. It was just kind of like I was looking for other people in the space, and this was like the only way. Like this
Mm-hmm.
just seemed like the best way to do it. But I feel like if I've been reflecting on this more recently, and I actually feel like there was always a deeper vision because like before the data entrepreneurs, we had this like little group. It was like me, my fiance, and one of our friends, and we're all like interested in entrepreneurship, like trying to build businesses and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And we called it BWG. It was called Business Working Group. We couldn't come
Nice.
up with a good name, but like I feel like for that, like we'd meet every week and we'd have these conversations, just kind of like fan that flame of entrepreneurship. And I feel like the vision for that was always like, oh, I would love for there to be like a BWG center where there's like, it's just this ecosystem of businesses and they're all interacting and collaborating and all these kinds of things. But then, like, one of the third friend that was part of that kind of dropped off the face of the earth. So it kind of came to an end at that point. And that was also one of the motivations for the data entrepreneurs because I had lost that outlet of like talking to other entrepreneurs on this kind of structured basis.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that vision was also there, like implicitly when I started the data entrepreneurs. Just like I've always loved this idea of like ecosystem of businesses like coming together and collaborating. And I don't know exactly what it's going to look like. Like one idea I've been kicking around recently is having some kind of like venture studio
Mm-hmm.
where it's just like a place where you can go from 0 to 1. Like people can bring ideas and it becomes like a profitable company.
Mm-hmm.
And even though I don't know like the details of what that might look like, I just really like that idea of I just imagine having a building somewhere like here in Dallas with some like modern industrial look. And it's just like there's staff, like people who can support the entrepreneurs, like give them guidance on some of the things that you don't really think about, or maybe you're not an expert in. So it might be like cybersecurity, it might be legal stuff, it might be accounting stuff, like all these things that you're probably not super savvy in as a data entrepreneur, but also just like, place to host events and, just give people guidance, have educational materials, like maybe have courses, maybe have like a fellowship. I guess another idea I had was, for me, I got my PhD, but I didn't want to go the academia route. And
Yeah.
so like one thing I had kind of dreamed of was I wish there was like a postdoc for entrepreneurship. Like people who just gotten their PhD, they don't want to go the academia route, but they want to pursue these like product ideas. So they just want to
Yeah.
pursue some project ideas. So it's like I wish someone would just give me like a year or two of runway to just
Mm-hmm.
try out ideas. And I feel like maybe one day the data entrepreneurs can have a fellowship like that.
That would be amazing.
Yeah, it would be amazing.
It would be really good. I mean, I know some people who started by getting like some funding from the government. Like,
Yeah,
it's like you can win like some sort of a prize or something just to get you going,
yeah,
to test if
grants.
the idea is working. Are you considering going to the funding route? Maybe go to like a VC or something like this regarding the
Probably
products you're trying to build?
Probably not, just because one first reason is probably more philosophical, and I'm a
Mm,
big believer in like organic growth, like bottom up systems.
Okay.
because I feel like those are more robust and resilient. When you artificially inject energy into a system, I think it can just start breaking things. And I think the
Right.
same is true for businesses. You just artificially inject all this capital, which is the fuel of business,
Mm.
and all the problems are going to come to the surface and that can kill you. Of course, like if I had a lot more experience and I knew what I was doing,
Yeah.
then funding would make more sense. But I know nothing, and I need to learn so much. So it's better for my mistakes to be as small as possible. But
Yeah.
funding it amplifies your mistakes. So I would be
Definitely.
really hesitant about that right now. And also, the second thing is that now the startup cost for business is so low. Like you have a laptop, you have internet access, like you can start a company.
Yeah.
You don't need a lot, especially with these cloud providers. Like you don't need servers. You can spend like that product I just shipped. Like the most expensive thing was the domain. The cloud. Like I probably have spent like less than $1 on the actual cloud costs. It was just
Uh-huh.
my time and buying a domain really to launch that thing. So the startup cost is so low
Yeah.
that for most business ideas that I would be pursuing at this point, it just doesn't make sense to take outside funding. And I feel like that, kind of going back to this venture studio idea for the data entrepreneurs, I feel like that would be the thesis, like the investment thesis of the venture studio. It's like, okay, let's just help those people who are trying to do these like super niche, very specific businesses go from like basically solopreneurs, trying to help them go from 0 to 1. Like not these companies that need huge funding to be viable, but companies like with very little startup costs can start generating revenue. And then, maybe, of course, as companies grow, if like I could imagine that there are relationships that this venture studio has with like venture capital firms who want to take it from 1 to like 10 or 1 to 1 million or like whatever you want to, like however you want
Hmm.
to play out the analogy. But yeah, at this point, I don't see myself being competent enough to take outside funding.
So when are you starting the venture studio? I would love to be part of it. This sounds like a great idea.
I feel like I at least need to successfully like build, like launch my product. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
Like at least
Yeah.
once. I need to do it at
Yeah.
least once so I can help other people do it.
Definitely.
But yeah, that's what I'm trying to do, and so that's why I'm trying to ship a product every single month until something works. And really, it's not about the product working; it's about me learning. This
Yeah.
YouTube to blog converter. You go on Google, there's probably like 20 of them out there,
Hmm.
but it's not about like making money, and it's not about the competition. It's about me and the skills and knowledge that I need to learn and develop in order to do the things that I want to do. And I think that's just the story of every entrepreneur.
No, definitely. Shipping this product, was there something that surprised you other than how quick it took?
There were definitely frustrating frustrating moments, and it was never the code. It was always just some like credential issue with Google Cloud or setting up the Stripe integration. So
Hmm.
it was just learning, you know what I mean? It was my first time doing a lot of these things. So just kind of making mistakes. And it was so funny because like I thought, like this one time, like I thought when I was adding a database to the app, like I thought there was just something going wrong when I was deploying it. I deployed it using a service called Railway, and I thought I was doing something wrong, but all I had to do was just like a really simple thing. Like my browser had remembered my credentials. So when I
Oh,
restarted the
yeah.
app, I
Hmm.
needed to just sign out so I could sign back in. But I basically spent like probably 4 hours trying to fix something that wasn't broken.
Oh my
And I
God.
think
Yeah.
that's just life as a developer. And when you're just kind of learning by trial and error, like you're just gonna
Hmm.
hit your head against the wall. But lucky thing is, like, I'll never make that mistake ever again.
Fair enough. Is there anything that you would like to mention that you think we haven't discussed yet?
No, but I'm curious about your background. So I've been hearing about ML engineering and your podcast, but curious
Hmm.
like what got you started in this space.
So I started as a medical engineer, actually, like
Okay.
studied medical engineering for bachelor's and master's, and found AI back then by pure coincidence. My university was doing some research regarding like cancer detection diagnostics. It was like deep learning just kind of came out. I mean,
Yeah.
came out earlier, but now people are trying to
They
use
were
it
using
to
it like applying it to the medical space.
Exactly, to medical space. And I found that super engaging. I was like, okay, this is awesome. Like I would love to get on it. And AI and machine learning, it was just like, it was super exciting.
Yeah.
And I decided to do my master's there. Looking back at it, I don't know, maybe it would have been also nice to just go and start working rather than going the full academic route,
Right.
because maybe in hindsight it wasn't that necessary. But yeah, joined some startups, worked for health tech applications, super interesting stuff, and now building recommendation engines. And only recently I was like, okay, when you reach the stage in life and it's like, I need a challenge. I need to try something new. I need excitement. And I decided to do this podcast by purely, it was like a personal goal that the company make us do. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do this as a personal project.
Mhm.
And then it just turned out to be something super exciting. And I was like, okay, it's opening so much doors. And it was also around that time that I told you I joined this running club, where you started meeting so many different people and listening to so many different stories. And all of a sudden, this topics about like maybe building a business or doing your own thing is not so alienated, because kind of everybody's doing it.
Yeah.
I'm always a fan of build your environment first. Like if you
Right.
want to be fit, if you want to like look good, just hang out with people who work out. Like that's the easiest way to do it, because the social pressure would kind of squeeze you to go to the gym. And all of a sudden, I'm hanging out with these guys that everybody's like, I don't know, like going to Antler or some other accelerators, or building their stuff from scratch, bootstrapping, all these like terms being thrown at me. I was super overwhelmed. And I was like, guys, like, I don't belong here, like I'm just a data scientist working full-time position.
Yeah.
But it kind of inspired me to do more. And I started like, okay, what is the way that you can have a little bit of taste? What would it take to be an entrepreneur without actually jumping right in the cold water?
Yep.
And I started doing freelancing as I feel like that's like the first step coming out of the being employment.
Right.
And I'm not gonna lie, I know you didn't like it. I loved it. It was so engaging, because you work based on deliverables. And
Yep.
like I work Saturdays, I work Sundays, I work nights. Like it doesn't matter, because all of a sudden now you're building for your name and not you're building for somebody else.
Right.
Like your reputation is on the line. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Well, don't get me wrong. When I first got into freelance, it was super exciting because it was
Yeah.
like, oh, I don't have to get a full-time job to make money. Like that was actually a huge unlock for me. Like
Mm-hmm.
that mindset shift was played a huge role in me just kind of where I am now and just going down this journey. But the first time I freelanced was in grad school like 4 years ago. So at
Mm-hmm.
this point, it's not exciting anymore. You know what I mean? I'm
Yeah.
kind of like you. Like I need to go to the next challenge, go to the
Yes.
next level.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I think your route is very similar to what I did. So I started with
Mm-hmm.
content creation and freelancing, and I feel like a lot of people in this space, like that's a great place to start because
Mm-hmm.
it's just dipping your toes in the water, and then you
Mm-hmm.
start developing the skills and you start developing the mindsets that you need to be successful as an entrepreneur.
No, totally. I totally agree with you. The thing for me, maybe the content, that was pure coincidence again. Like I'm a pretty shy guy, like in reality. Like I don't like the spotlight. I don't like to be on a podcast. And now my face is on Spotify and people saying like, oh, you're doing a podcast. So it's not something that comes familiar to me. But I realized with podcasting, you're meeting so many awesome people like yourself. It's just a great opportunity to, it's a great icebreaker. Like let's imagine I want to meet you, or I want to meet other people, and I'm meeting now like a lot of CTOs, CEOs. I now built a platform where they can share about their work, so they feel valued, and then you get to meet these people, and it's like a win-win, regardless whether the podcast goes like skyrockets or not. It's just this human connection, and it's super fulfilling. Like I feel awesome after every episode. It's very exciting for me to do this kind of stuff. And I'm not gonna lie, like I never found this excitement at any employment job. Like it just simply doesn't exist. I don't know if I'm built different. This make me sound arrogant, but like it doesn't excite me anymore. And I need not only excitement, but just something that you can put in a risk, but there's also the reward. Rather than no matter what you invest in your employment, nothing is gonna. I mean, okay, you can climb up the ladder, but like nothing gonna explode, you know.
Right.
And now the vision is I want to try either to build a SaaS product, so similar to what you're doing, and or the routes that I'm currently trying to build is an agency. have team under me, under myself and working with me, that we can build software solution for people, and we'll see how that
Yeah,
works. That's
that's
the whole
awesome.
fun of it.
I feel like it's so crazy just like hearing all the different stories of,
Yeah,
people going down this path, because I feel like this, like what you just described, is very like prototypical. Like people, they start freelancing or they start content creation and they start going the agency route, and then people have a lot of success with that, or they pivot to product development and like
yes,
going in that direction. So it's just like, even though everyone's journey is different, like no two people I've met have the same exact like educational background, professional experience, future aspirations, but there's so many commonalities and themes. It always amazes me when there's regularity in nature, even though I'm a scientist and that's like what science is all about. It's just always amazing. And I will say the podcast, that is like the second hack when it comes to mentorship,
yeah,
because people, it's hard to get people in a coffee chat, especially people who are, doing stuff and are
yeah.
successful, however
Hmm.
you define that word. But everyone's happy to be on a podcast, even if no
Definitely,
one
yes,
watches
yes.
the podcast. They're like, oh yeah, I love podcasts. So
Yes,
like, I've gotten people to talk to me that would never talk to me otherwise. So like
yeah,
Louis Serrano, he's a famous YouTuber, the Seattle data guy. He's
yes.
very successful data consultant and like
Uh-huh.
huge following on social. Santiago, who we were talking about earlier, has a huge
Hmm.
following on socials and very accomplished freelancer. So
Hmm.
like there was no way I would like these people would ever do a coffee chat with me, but getting them to do a podcast, it's like, oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's honestly, it's the biggest hack. And I feel like I didn't know about this until again accidentally. Like you just stumble into so many different tricks that you didn't know about.
Mhm.
And it was actually today because I told you I was interviewing the guy who's going to help me to edit these videos, and he was like, "Oh, like what is the most challenging part for you?" And I was like, yeah, just like the editing is just time consuming. It's not challenging. I can do it myself. It's just time consuming. And he was like, oh, like for me, like from what I saw from working with other clients is always finding new guests. And I was
Mhm.
like, actually, that's the easiest thing I've been having so far. Like everybody keeps saying yes. And it's just, I'm so fully booked that I cannot just keep fulfilling. And I need help. I need people who like automate some stuff like and help me out.
Yeah, nice.
And yeah, I agree. It's, I mean, definitely some people say no, but that's also part of the job. Nobody,
Yep.
like some people are shy, you know, like me. Like I don't like to be on a podcast. So maybe actually for you, I know that you host a podcast, but how does it feel to be on the other side?
It feels the same.
Okay.
Yeah. I guess it's easier, for sure. Like I don't have to prepare. I don't need to promote.
Okay.
I don't have to
Uh-huh.
do anything. I just show up and talk. I don't know how fun it is to listen to, but
I'm sure. Oh, it
it's
was
definitely a lot easier.
super valuable. Yeah.
And I also have a podcast with my fiance called Get Paid to Live. So we're doing that
Okay.
like every week or 2 weeks. So,
That's nice.
I think the main thing for me with the podcast, which is basically like the same motivation behind like everything I do, is just to learn and to like get better. So it's like learning through mentorship and like talking to these people, but also developing my communication skills, because
Definitely. Yeah.
you know, maybe listening to this, you'd be like, okay, this guy's not great, but he's not bad. But if you like heard me 5 years ago when I was in grad school, it would be like, I don't even understand what this guy's talking about. It's kind of like Elon Musk. Like Elon's gotten a lot better at public speaking, well, but a few years ago, it was like really hard to listen to him talk, but you like kind of have to because he's Elon Musk and doing really cool stuff. Yeah, I feel like, it's not surprising he has a physics background, because a lot of physicists, for whatever reason, just really struggle to communicate concisely and effectively.
I totally agree. If now I watch couple videos like not so long ago, like it's crazy how the learning curve like it's quite steep. Like you improve just by editing your own videos. You
Yeah.
realize I always ask two questions at the same time, like what is wrong with me, and you try to improve like by having this feedback loop. But yeah, I totally agree. I feel like maybe 100 episodes in, I will look back and say like, oh my god, like how did I ever polish these videos?
Yeah.
I sound
But
like
you
an
have to
idiot.
publish. You
We
have to
have to
publish.
publish.
You have to ship. You have to reach out to the client. You just have to do the reps. Like
Just
that's the only way
have
you
to
get
do
better.
exactly. I totally agree. Shaw, this was amazing. I really, really enjoyed my conversation with you. And I hope to see you maybe in person. Hopefully, that would be amazing at some point or in the future.
Yeah,
Thank
that'd
you
be
so much
awesome.
for being on my podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was a lot of fun. And I'll say I have a lot of family in Germany, so maybe one day I'll come by and we can go for a run or something.
Amazing. Would love to have you. All right, man. Have a nice day.
All right, take
Ciao.
care.